So I just brought my plants in for the winter, and some of them have got some things that need to be attended to. So that's what I'm going to start doing. And I'm going to start first with this lemon lime philodendron. So I'm going to go ahead and take it down from the plant hanger and bring it over here. So as you can see, the top of this plant is very bare. The sunlight beating down on it caused it to burn, and then it just stopped growing from the top and started growing downwards. And we also have a lot of leaves that were burnt, and the plant is just not thriving. So the best thing to do for it is to cut it back completely and then propagate it. So that's what I'm going to do. So starting from here, I'm just going to cut those at the nodes and set them aside. Just going to cut the stems from the crown of the plant and work from there. Okay, so now that I've done all that, this is what the plant looks like. And I'm still going to keep some of this remaining foliage in here to see if it does regrow from the top here. But this is the foliage that I have, and some on the ground that I have to pick up. And I'm just going to go ahead and remove all of the dead leaves from it, because those are useless, the dead and the damaged leaves. Something interesting is all the different little webs that these jumping spiders created on my philodendron. And after bringing my plants inside for the winter, I've noticed a lot more jumping spiders in my house. I think it directly correlates. All right, there's all of our good foliage, and here's all of our unusable foliage. Now, I have to take each of these pieces at the node and cut them into separate sections for propagation. So this is how you do it. You're going to take it on both sides of this growing point called the node, and you cut it on either side, and that's one cutting. And that's where your new roots are going to grow from. And you might already have aerial roots growing on them, but that is where your new plant's going to start from. And when you have these long segments of no leaves, you're just going to cut those off until you get back to a leaf, because that's the only way it will grow. And the rest of that is useless foliage. So you just do this along the entire stem. And you don't need too much. You don't need too much of this stem to get it started. You just need a little bit on either side of the node. In fact, having too much of it when you're trying to put it in your propagation jar or vessel is going to make it hard to get it in and out. This is an example of a cutting and a leaf that you don't need to keep. It would grow, and it probably could grow, but the leaf is just, it's half a leaf and it's not in the best shape. So you don't want to keep this one. Now this is a good example of an aerial root that's already growing. See it right there? Now this, when you put it in water to propagate it, it might grow straight from there because it's not dried up and it's not deep brown, so it might start growing from right at that point. But it doesn't have to. It can come from any other point on here. All right, so these are my usable cuttings now. Now I need to go through and arrange them into these repurposed pickle jars and salsa jars that I'm going to be using as propagation vessels. So you want to arrange them where all the nodes are facing down and to where they're not going to be too tangled up. You want it to look something like this, to where all the nodes are together, and then when you put it in the jar, all the nodes will be fully submerged in water. Alright, now that this one is nice and packed, it's time to go and fill it up with water. And you want to make sure that it's filled all the way to the top of the jar so that all of the nodes are fully submerged. Because if not, they'll dry out and the cutting will die. Now you just put your cuttings in a window where it's going to get a good amount of indirect light and wait for the roots to form. Now we've repeated the process with the remainder of our cuttings. We're filling it up with water and we're putting it in a window with indirect sunlight. And that's everything that we can do to rehabilitate our lemon lime philodendron. And this is what's left over. So we're just going to go ahead and water this too. Let's see what happens. And that's one plant down.